This is the Subluminous Stream Halloween episode, recorded on October 31st, 2023. Hey, welcome to Subluminous Stream. Happy Halloween. Hope everybody's doing all right. It's me, Mario.
It's me, homeless guy.
I hope everybody's doing okay. I think we got a good, fun Halloween show today for you. This one will be a little bit shorter, maybe about 45 minutes to an hour. And we're going to be talking about Cardinal Point, and we got 2 chapters today. We're super excited because I guess Friday was the release of Cardinal Point on Vella. And then we've been releasing, I guess the plan is to release a new chapter every week. And then we've actually got some stuff that's pretty fresh today that just will go up to Kindle Vella today as well.
Just came off the presses, actually. And it should be available, chapters 5 and 6, when it's on Vella, should be available by the time this stream is done.
Yeah. Yeah, and so the counting for Vella is a little bit off because I apparently like to include prologues and things. And so if you count the prologue as a chapter, then it's 6 chapters. If you don't, then it's 5 chapters. But there are 5 things to read plus another thing to read, which equals 6 things to read. At least that's my take on it.
Yeah.
So I guess, do we want to do a rundown of the show? I think this one's should be pretty straightforward. We're going to read. You're going to read a chapter, I'm going to read a chapter. You're going to read a chapter.
I am, yeah.
And then do we discuss between, or we just discuss them both afterward?
I think we discuss between shortly.
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
The one I'm going to read's kind of short, so it should be pretty quick. And then, so we'll do the discussion. We'll do a little bit of a character analysis, and then we'll sort of talk about some things that are coming up, and, talk about some fun Halloween stuff. And then we'll be out of here and on the way and to get ready for tomorrow.
Yeah, still doing a show tomorrow.
Yeah, still doing a show tomorrow. So this is just our Halloween weekend special. All right, so hence the costume. So let's see. I will go ahead and start with Chapter 4. The man cliffs are a good place to find crabs and urchins. Just before sunset at Cardinal Point, nocturnal creatures awaken from their evening as the ocean swells to high tide. The calm of the late day turns to bustling night as the gulls pick at shells, the crabs emerge from hiding, and a group of river otters swim from the Penobscot River estuary into the open ocean, marking them as witness to the return of an ancient malign emissary from the depths of the sea. I'm with my brother Silverspot, floating in the waves. At dusk, we like to leave the little water for the big salty water to hunt the rock crabs. Today, the man cliffs smell like dead fish. That smell means good crab hunting. We are the first here before the light is gone. Silverspot and I wrestle and clean our faces, taking care with our whiskers, waiting for our hunt and the darkness in the sky. Usually the crabs are stuck in holes and cracks, and we can't hunt them. At night, the crabs come out of the cracks to eat the green skin off the rocks, while the salty water covers everything. It is dark, and we swim towards the rocks under the water. I chirp to Silverspot and dive down to find a crab as it is eating the green skin. It's easy to catch, and I bite its head so it doesn't move. It is good, and I carry it to the air above. Silverspot does the same, and we swim to the edge of the man cliffs. We climb out of the water to crack the crabs on the rocks and eat them. It is the cold time, and the crabs are big now. There are many more crabs in this place, and others, like us, from our family's family, begin to arrive to hunt. I see my sister's daughter and her pups. They are big now and good at hunting. We sit on the rocks as a group, eating crab and returning to the water to hunt more. I look at Pretty One, and she looks at me while she eats. When it is cold, we will mate. Then, during the long days, we will have pups, and they will hunt and eat crab here too. My family's family will be very big then. I return to the water to get another crab. I dive under and see something new. There is light under the water. I have never seen light under the water before. I return to the air and chirp at sister's daughter. Silverspot, Longtail, Three Toes, Pretty One, and the others. Everyone looks at me and then returns to the water to see the light. I dive under again to look and see the man-child crawling under the great salt water. He is not wearing his second man-skins, but is slick and hairless, except for his head fur. A newborn pup would have had more fur than this man-child. I return to the surface and make the bark of warning. My family's family are on alert and keep their distance, each popping their head above and below the water to watch. Again, I return to look and see the crabs, fish, and even an old eel are afraid of the man-child. They leave their hiding places and swim away in fear as the man-child walks on the rocks. I see the light shining from the man-child's eyes. Where it looks, the bright light shines like grass, and more creatures leave in fear. I swim away, but keep watch until it reaches the land. I watch it walk up the rocks toward the man-cliff. Perhaps it is returning to its home. That is good. It should return and leave us alone. As I watch it climb the stones, I see the salty water flow from its mouth. I smell something. It is the rot smell, not the same as the dead fish smell. It is the smell when the mother's mother is old and she dies, or when the youngest one eats the sick pellet from the man den and he dies. The bad-smelling thing walks beneath the man-cliff, and even the little crabs that steal shells run away. Their fear makes me also afraid. The smell makes me afraid too. The only creatures that do not run are the noisy bright birds. They make their circles in the air above it, and make their bird barking noises. The thing stops, and the light in its eyes goes out. It bends, finds an old second man skin, and holds it up. It then puts on the second skin, changing its coat to the fresh blood color. It continues along the rocks, and we watch it until it is gone. We wait a long time, and when we can no longer smell it in the air, my family's family returns to hunting the rock crabs.
Yeah.
All right, so that's chapter 4.
Chapter 5 in Vella.
Yeah, chapter 5 in Vella.
Yeah.
So, so this one was a little bit of a strange one, and we talked about it, and I sort of sprung it on you and was like, hey, I want to write a chapter that doesn't have any people in it, and it's just animals.
Yeah.
And so this one is one about urchins, but not urchins, otters eating urchins and crabs. But I wanted to have these kind of animal witnesses, and the idea being that they could sort of see the reality unveiled in a way that a person wouldn't see, and so I tried to write it like that. I don't know if it came through, but that was the intent.
Yeah. Sort of the theme with these two chapters is what is it? We just said it. It's just like how things kind of go over the eyes of a lot of inhabitants of Cardinal Point.
Yeah, sort of. They're not really seeing the reality, and so this is our way of revealing the reality through the eyes of these animals. And so I felt like this was a pretty good stab. I've got one other maybe animal-based chapter, and I think I'll bring the otters back, for like later on in the book. And we talked a little bit about that. And I think I've got some. I don't want to spoil it, but
yeah, we're not done with the otters.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So as far as like a character analysis, I made it a little bit difficult on myself because I didn't want the animals to have names, and I didn't want them to speak like people do. So I was like, okay, well, if you are animals that have limited vocabulary, what do you call everybody? And I was like, well, it could all be nicknames, but then otters all have very sort of similar looks and things. I'm sure otters can
to us, they don't all look the same.
Yeah. So I was trying to think of things that differentiated otters, and so I actually did like a little bit of cursory searching to sort of see like otter coloration and stuff, and there isn't a whole lot of like differentiation.
Yeah.
They're not like dogs where they have different spots and stuff like that.
A white tuft or
Yeah, but every once in a while they're slightly different patterning or whatever. So then I was like, okay, well then he's going to talk to them about sort of his relationship, or if there's something that's an obvious difference. So then that's when it actually coming up with the names. I wanted it to be that's why there's sort of a list, and he talks about them. And I wanted the list to be big enough that it felt like I had names for all of them, but I didn't want it to be so big that I had to come up with names for all of them, because I was really agonizing over it. So I came up with Sister's Daughter, Silver Spot, Longtail, Three Toes, Pretty One, and the others, right? And then later on, I talk about Mother's Mother and Youngest One or whatever, and that exhausted the amount of names I could come up with for my Otter clan.
Well, they would be small group of them too, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I think they are usually pretty close family groups.
We have one comment. Mega Cow. Hi Beck.
Hello.
1 year now, I guess.
Yeah.
3 now. Yeah.
So that was sort of a short but sweet one. I don't really have, as far as development goes, I don't really know like the personality of these animals, other than they're kind of reacting to this thing walking up from the bottom of the ocean. But I hope that their descriptive text was readable enough. I tested this one out with a couple of people to make sure they understood. And the first draft I gave somebody, they were like, I don't understand. Is it like werewolves watching a zombie come out of the water? And I was like, close. And I was like, but I had no description of otters anywhere. So I was like, well, I guess since I don't describe them as otters, I need to add something. So I added the description at the top that mentions they're otters.
Yeah.
The other choice was have them holding hands and floating, that's fine too. But
too cute.
Yeah, well, cute is fine, but I think it might also still be ambiguous.
Yeah.
So but maybe I'll have them holding hands in the next chapter.
But why do we have a chapter in this horror book with otters? I think.
Oh, why did I? Yeah. So that's. I felt like it would be. This is sort of an eyes unveiled.
Yeah.
Chapter. Yeah.
But also just not story related. Cardinal Point is kind of us pushing. I guess not really pushing our boundaries, but just like kind of like let's everything we can think of. Let's do it and experiment with this story. Yeah.
Yeah. And so. Yeah, and I think I was having trouble sort of figuring out a way to bridge the chapters that we were working on, and so I was like, okay, well, what if I sort of talk about the aftermath of the previous chapter, but it's not like I could have like some jogger on the beach, like running and then like stopping and like seeing the kid like walk out of the water, but I was like, that's too on the nose, and I was like, if I describe it from the standpoint of these otters that don't really know what's going on, then it makes it a little more mysterious, or it felt like it did to me. But I don't know, let me know what you think. If you've read the other chapters and you get to this one, if you feel like asking questions or giving us feedback, let me know.
Yeah.
Because I'd be curious to know.
If you want a whole book of what these otters are doing, or a series of chapters in Cardinal Point Wildlife, just let us know.
Yeah,
we'll write it.
Yeah, we'll just write the I don't know, Fast Times at Otter High or something.
Yeah. I was like sharing and doing stuff, so I'm 70% paying attention this week.
Okay, yeah, no
instead
worries.
Half.
I can run this show by myself with my my Mario hat.
Okay, I'll go.
Yeah, you ready to read?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess I'll just keep it on. Should I try to get this? Are you seeing picture in picture up there?
I do, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool. You in the small, me in the big?
Yep.
All right. I figured it out. Now this here says chapter 4, but I believe it's chapter 5 when it's in the book proper.
Oh, yeah, I might.
But on Vella, this is chapter 6.
Yeah, I'm sure all the numbers are messed up. We'll have to go back and make sure they're fixed.
Yeah. I'll try my best. Tornadoes and whirlpools in the face of the maelstrom. They pulled up to the sign. It was a good spot, right downtown. Brody could see the diner used to be a Denny's that had gone out of business and been re-skinned by a local. The shape of the sign was the unmistakable Denny's shape, a hexagon blended with a trapezoid. Wilby's, on the other hand, differentiated by using mauve and white in their logo. Already out of breath. While they exited the car, Brody looked up at the sign and noticed a swirl of gulls circling Wilby's. It reminded him of carrion birds circling the dead. The image of the dead didn't bode well for breakfast, but Brody didn't mention it. The point was big enough to draw tourists, but it was small enough but it was a small town at heart. I'm going to get through this, I swear. Small town at heart, and locals tended to love their diners. Brody decided the shore probably brought them near. Maybe it was a garbage barge.
Who the fuck writes this shit? I think is the statement.
This shit. Crow noticed Brody looking up at them. They've been doing that lately. Maybe some storm front coming in, or something dead we can't see yet off the harbor. Some of the locals shot him. Oh, I need to just look ahead.
Yeah.
Shot him? What? Reading like a second grader. Some of the locals shot him curious looks as they entered, but acknowledged Crow, and by extension, granted Brody the grace of a few local smiles. Brody thought about the heart of the small town again. He needed to remember that when talking to Crow from the big cat... He needed to remember that when talking to Crow. From the big cafe window, they could see the shopping, errands, and deliveries of mid-sized bustling economy. Crow picked up a booth across the counter next to a young native guy, swishing a piece of toast in his yolks. "Crow?" the young native said with a nod. The young man's inflection made it sound like it was a question, but if it was, Crow didn't answer. Instead, Crow inspected the evidence of at least 4 over-easy eggs on his plate, 3 more pieces of toast, and what was surely an ever-filling cup of coffee, black with enough sugar to choke anyone. "Done it again, eh, Bruce? Another successful morning?" "Sure, yeah," he said, chewing yellow soggy toast. "But I keep telling you, bud, call me Chay." The bud in his sentence was jovial enough, but when he reached the Chay, he delivered a statement that managed to sound annoyed and calm at the same time. And much like the greeting, this sentence sounded like a question as well. Bruce Chayton, a 7th-generation Indian, 3rd-generation Jesuit converted Catholic, stood half a head above Brody and Crow when he got up to shake Crow's hand. Chay looked at Brody for help and asked, "He only calls me that because he's a cop." Brody didn't know how to answer this third question either, so he kept quiet. Then Chay looked out the window and finally asked a real question. "The gulls are going batshit, huh?" Yeah, he's such a good character. Yeah, Crow said. "Been more of that lately. Hey, you teaching the kids today?" Chay followed with a series of more question-like statements. "Oh yeah, going up to the school after breakfast? Got this one kid. He's native, but he doesn't know anything." Really? Is this sounding... Well, you can't hear it. It's not sounding good.
Oh, you're not sounding good?
Okay, now it does.
Okay.
I think it's the cord or something. "Got this one kid. He's native, but doesn't know anything. I told him what my name meant, and he liked it." I can't do it like you do it. I'm thinking of the guy and not the character.
Yeah, you just do it how you would do it. You grew up with these guys
such as this.
Yeah.
"So next week he comes up to me and he says his name is Ravenclaw. Ravenclaw from Harry Potter. I wanted to be mad, but I got to admit, Ravenclaw's cool." Neither Brody nor Crow had an answer for any of Chay's litany of pseudo questions, so they just stood silently for a moment. It was warm, bordering on cozy inside the diner, but outside the breeze turned into a micro-tornado of newspapers, plastic detritus, and dirt. An old woman and a grandson protested the assault of well-driven blinding dust. Wind-driven blinding dust. The three men instinctively winced as if they could feel the sting of the wind and grime through the glass. Brody took one last peek at the ominous and massive maelstrom of gulls circling. He didn't grow up on the coast, but he had to be there. But he had been here 20 years and never seen anything like it before. The open sign hung above the table, facing the street. It buzzed a red and blue haze on Brody's face. I was about to say Yodi. On Brody's face, as they sat behind the big window in the growing cold outside. Chay was apparently done with the conversation and returned to his eggs. Brody ordered coffee, and they talked for a bit, shooting the breeze as if they were working together for years. It had all been the appearance of a conversation between two men in a similar vocation. He wanted to bring up the kids and the files he found this morning at his precinct, but he needed to get more familiar with Crow before he started dropping evidence bombs. Small town, Hart Crow might take it well, but Brody didn't want to guess. He wanted to solve for the Crow variable first. The case would move much easier afterward. Wife good? Crow asked. I thought I remembered you'd had a wife. Brody swallowed hard. The coffee was hot, and he coughed. But it was obvious the coffee wasn't the problem. They both sat silent for a second. You okay? Crow said, seemingly embarrassed, but the embarrassment looked a bit alien on him. It did have the effect of causing Brody to drop his defenses a bit. Was it cop psychology or genuine interest? No, Brody said. Wife's fine. Sophia's just fine, keeping up the house, cop's wife. Waking up late, making coffee. He sat, swirling his coffee with his spoon, making a black whirlpool. Used to, I mean. Lately it seems like I'm always out late. I can't tell if it's town's getting bigger or if I'm getting slower. He shook his head. Come to think of it, I can't remember the last time we had some good coffee together. But anyways, Sophia's good. I caught her this morning before I left. That right? Crow snorted and grinned. Sophia's coffee. Sounds like the coffee used to be pretty damn good. Brody laughed. No reason to miss it. Didn't even need sugar. That's wrong. You should miss it. No reason to miss it.
Oh, no reason to not miss it? Yeah, that's probably... I might have typoed it, too.
Plenty reason to miss it.
Yeah,
we'll just say that. Shit, Crow scoffed again. If it makes you feel any better, some of us hadn't had much coffee in years. That's so. Not any that means a damn. Not to change the subject, but is this preacher case what kept you out last night? Their food came. A bored waitress placed it down. Brody's toast slipped off his plate, but he didn't mind until the lady acted like it was inconvenient. It inconvenienced her. I tell you what, reading is a fucking job. This shit won't go away. He ate it anyway, thinking they probably rubbed the booth with a bleached towel once a week, and it was Monday, so he had a good fighting chance. That's good. Crow got a bacon, egg, and cheese on Texas toast. Brody curiously watched Crow's sauce and mayonnaise ritual as he dotted the open sandwich sauce, mayo, packet in his left hand, bottle in his right. From the practiced motions, he could tell it was one of his go-tos. Brody got the old-fashioned, 2 slabs of smoked ham toast, with Chay inspiring his eggs over the choice of his eggs over easy, though 4 eggs seemed ludicrous, so he got 2. He was glad Crow brought up the case first. This let Brody guide the conversation with answers instead of questions. Crow could be the cop first. He could jump in later. Yeah, something you said last night made me start thinking. I wanted to check in on that kids, because of what you said about Adam. What's that? You said something about having a few missing children's cases. Said they've been solved pretty recently after the disappearances? Yeah, Crow said. Solved being the key word. I thought it was odd. They came back, Brody. Maybe you have to do some Maybe you do have some serial pedophile roaming around your woods, hanging out by the pier. I can't believe it was Adam. Not yet, anyway. But it did seem plausible. Brody thought it might be a good time to ask a question, so he followed with, any evidence to support a pedophilia or trafficking? Crow shook his head. The kids won't talk, or rather, they don't say anything about it. Some strange kind of mass, I don't know. Wandering off, lots of people in Cardinal Point, we aren't podunk like Coas. So it's enough kids to notice, but whatever is happening to them, they forget. Could be drugs making them forget. Brody held his hands up in an open, pleading gesture. I just want to take a look, based on any allegations against Adam. Can't stop you, I suppose, Crow said low, scratching his brow. His tongue held something back, though. Brody hoped he hadn't gone too far too fast. This was Crow's reputation. I also found a similar case, a kid from Coas, but his dad lived in the point. I'd like to talk to him. Oh, the thing ends there.
Did I not send you the whole thing?
No, I mean the quotations ends there.
Oh, yeah.
If he's not continuing to talk. I'd like to talk to him. I'd like to talk to him and the kid. I'll talk to the mother, too, but she lives in my town. Would I be held up if I look around and find something in Cardinal Point? Fuck, Crow said. You won't find anything, but if you do, you won't be stopped by me. I'm in the protect and serve business, and this is what I know. He leaned closer to Brody and looked deep into the old man's eyes. They all come back. Every one of them. We asked them all the same questions. Hell, we asked them different questions, too. There was a loud knock at the window, as if it was the exclamation point on Crow's word. Brody ducked away from the window. It was an involuntary reaction to the movement in his periphery. His hand moved to the gun at his hip, which was a voluntary and practiced reaction. Crow bounced up in his seat, head twisted to see the spider-cracked window and a spot of dark blood. The sky looked blackened with white seagulls blanketing the sky. Sharp cries drowned out the murmurs of the people at the diner at first, and then, in reaction, everyone got quiet. Synchronized birds hung in the sky. Organism was the word that came to mind. Crow tilted his head in study. His eyes followed upward to the dancing loops swaying high above them. What the hell is that? Brody asked himself. A gull, Crow said, through a dry throat, looking at the broken window, and he looked back to the organism outside and said, Gulls. The diner went from silence to trance. Everyone was rising to look through the window, and the diner was absent of conversation and the clink of glass and flatware. Even the kitchen was silent. People outside looked at the fallen bird. He and Crow instinctively went to the exit to investigate, and the native kid, Chay, followed them outside. They found writhing on the ground a seagull with an obviously broken neck. Brody went for the gull as the creature flung itself, head flopping around the sidewalk. Brody intended to grab the pathetic animal by the neck and twist it to put it out of its misery. No! Brody felt a large, dark, bare, paw-sized hand of Chay on his shoulder as he knelt to pick up the bird. The kid was strong. Chay said, better to let that one die on its own. Brody took the bird in hand and looked back at Chay. No point in letting it suffer like this. Brody tightened his grip to keep the bird still. Chay followed suit, tightening his grip on Brody. Let it be. And Chay's strength and calm almost convinced Brody to let it be. But he did not let go of the bird. Chay continued, There are things older than us. He pointed to the sky. The sky watchers. He pointed to the tree line and beyond it, the vast sea. Neptune. Chay held Brody's attention, now locked into his almost black eyes. The sailors said it's bad luck to kill a seabird. Chay said it as if he was repeating a line from a book, and again it sounded like a question. I always listen to the sailors and old men. That saying came from the oldest sailor I know. Unsettled, Brody shied away from Chay's gaze and grip. Then twisted the bird's neck and unceremoniously tossed it into the grass nearby. He raised his eyes to meet Chay's and nodded in the face of their disagreement, trying to find some acceptance from this man he had only just met. The only words he could find was a half sentence, just suffering. Chay returned silence, so Brody walked back into Wilby's, feet dragging on the way to the bathroom to wash his hands. Chay looked at the dead gull. Chay's eyes studied it as the still body became animated again. A fizzing foam oozed out of the bird's beak. Its feathers began to slough off. Is that how you say that?
Yeah.
Slough off, revealing black, writhing skin. The undulating movement climbed inside the body until it reached the head, finally vomiting a profusion of worm-like creatures. The amount that came forth was commensurate with the body of mass of the bird itself, as if it contained more than the bird's weight in worms. However, more unsettling to Chay was the look of the creatures. They had no head to speak of. They were lined on one side with what looked like tiny suckers. They resembled tentacle arms with no host. As he studied, he saw what they were doing. The tiny suckers were mouths, drinking the remains of the liquefied bird. In moments, the only thing left were feathers, a beak, and a black stain, not even bones. To Chay, the moment was unnatural and horrifying. Then he looked up to see the faces of the crowd as they disbanded, and his horror intensified. No one could see what he saw. They reacted as if it were a dead bird and no more. Chay looked at Crow and asked a real question then. Hey, Crow, did you see that? Crow didn't answer. And that's Cardinal Point Chapters 5, 6.
Yeah. Who's counting? Not me.
Me.
I'm putting the wrong number down every time. So we got to talk about, I think first we got to talk about Chay.
Chay.
So just tell me a little bit about the background here. So you grew up on the res, and Chay is this is the kind of guy that you might see that would go to like high schools and middle schools and stuff and talk to other kids about like what, like tribal stuff.
Yes, you play with beads, you make dream catchers, you talk a little bit about the history for maybe, I think I remember it being once a week or something for an hour. All the native kids of certain blood quotants would go to this guy, and I knew him, like a lot of us knew him. I'm pretty sure he's probably one of my cousins too. I won't say his name because I don't think you should. But yeah, Chay is based on this guy because he seemed old, but I was 10, 11 years old.
Yeah.
10, 12, 13, whatever. So a 25-year-old, you 25, you 65, I don't know.
Yeah. 25 seems ancient when you're that young.
Yeah. Just a nice kind of guy, but would joke around with the kids, would like point to you and say, "Hey, cuzzo, what you doing?" And then get on with teaching the class. But then also be pretty knowledgeable and wise, like just on a turn of a dime, which I think we got here pretty well.
Yeah. So I thought it was interesting. I wanted to hear you read that character because I thought it was cool that's your actual background, that's your history. And so I don't really have any sort of perspective on the character, but he was instantly probably one of the more interesting characters that you came up with when we were talking. And then I think you mentioned him about some stuff that you wanted him to say and do when we were having breakfast recently. And I was suddenly like, okay, this guy, he's going to be a big part of the story.
Yeah.
And so I just thought the whole concept of like a young wise man was really interesting. And then, He's got a little bit of a trope in that he's like sort of the native guy, but I don't think that he's.
But he's also drinking Mountain Dew at the gas station.
Yeah, he's sort of portrayed with this sort of modern mannerisms, and he's incorporated.
It was obviously hungover.
Yeah, with the 4 eggs or whatever.
Another cliche.
Yeah. Oh, I get the joke now. So when I first read that, I thought that Crow was talking about how he had completed a huge breakfast or whatever. But you were like, no, he had another terror on the town or whatever. So that's funny that I didn't get that. It's probably the white guy in me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know. I think Chay is a really cool character.
We said, yeah, isn't it his full name? Bruce Chayton. Bruce Chay Chayton.
And then I guess I don't know if it's still in development. We talked. He had like kind of a native like animal name or something too. I don't remember what it was.
Chayton was.
Oh, is that what Chayton means? Something.
Yeah. I thought it meant eagle.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So yeah. So he's basically Bruce Eagle, I guess is the.
Yeah, Bruce.
If you were to translate it.
Or Bruce Eagle or.
Yeah. Okay.
Bruce Raptor of some kind.
Yeah. And then I don't know who came up with the Harry Potter thing, but that's my other favorite joke is just like, because it just seemed to me really funny if there's this native guy that's trying to sort of pass on this tribal knowledge to kids, and he's, his work is to go into the schools and like tell these kids about stuff and introduce them, and then like one of them shows up and he's like Ravenclaw, and you're like, oh man, right, Harry Potter.
That was you, but my contribution was like he should think it's cool at the end.
Okay, yeah. So like, yeah, and Ravenclaw is cool, right? So
does sound cool. Despite Harry Potter.
Let's see. Endel says Chay seems like a legend, which I would agree. I think Chay is a legend.
Chay kind of made, in writing that chapter for me, Chay kind of made the other two characters more. He like uplifted the whole thing, I think.
100%. The book changed when you introduced me to Chay. And so I actually wanted to get to this chapter pretty quickly, and you were still working on it. And so, and I don't know if we've sort of talked about our writing a little bit, but typically on a book, especially if it's one that you have initiated, I think the process is you pound out a bunch of chapters, and then I go in and do some editing. So a lot of times I'm waiting to do my editing, but this one I actually wanted to jump on pretty quick because it seemed like it would be really fun to.
Yeah, I just wrote this last night, and you were already on it.
Yeah.
This morning.
So it came together pretty quickly. We had a lot of discussions about it, but and I had a bunch of notes from when we had breakfast.
Yeah.
Recently, which is probably influenced the whole diner concept.
Yeah,
too.
Definitely. But not the runny eggs.
Yeah.
Runny eggs is from my childhood.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like runny eggs, so I was getting into the yolks. But yeah, so yeah, super excited about Chay. I think he suddenly becomes the glue because we've got this sort of cop partnership, but they don't know each other. They're not really partners yet. And then we insert Chay, and it just changed the whole dynamic for me.
Yeah. And I think Chay, at the pace we want to go with this, something like Chay helps us figure out the other characters too. Like a character, I think a character like that coming in kind of for us anyway, it's seeming true, helps us define what the other characters are going to be faster. Yeah,
100%. He was disruptive in a good way, right? And they have to react to him, and we have to react to him, which is really cool too.
Yeah.
So anyway, so super excited about whatever Chay's going to be doing next, which I have no idea. So I can't wait to see the next Chay chapter. But I guess we probably have a couple more little things before we see Chay again, maybe.
Yeah.
And then
could do a Chay spinoff. He can hunt the goat man or something.
Yeah.
That's another thing from the res.
Well, that always happens too whenever we're discussing books. Other books get spawned. So
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I could see him totally dropping the line about hunting the goat man at some point too. Just like it's one of the things that he does.
Yeah, little buds, don't go on that bridge. That's where the goat man is.
Yeah. So I love it when you do that because I know that somebody said that to you. That was an actual sentence that you heard.
Yeah. And an actual note. I don't know how we write that. But goat man.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have to figure out how to write those.
Yeah. So yeah. The other thing that I think is interesting is so Chay is he's native but Jesuit. And
Yep.
I just had the realization. So like you always talked about your Mormon background and your native background, and I thought they were two separate backgrounds, but your native background is Mormon too. So like the natives were Mormon, then your dad's Mormon, and that blew my mind. I don't know why. I mean, I just didn't think of it that way, but I was like, oh yeah, of course the Christians went and talked to the natives and converted them, right? So you're talking to converted natives that have adopted Christianity. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, somebody from outside, you know, the white Christian marries, and that's sort of your background. But I guess the part that I was confused on was the whole like native upbringing, and so there's the cultural native upbringing, and then there's the church that they're in, and so it adds this sort of richness to the fabric that I don't know, it just blew my mind. It's more dimensions than I expect out of my Native Americans when they start busting Native American tropes, you know.
Still dance in circles and play the drums, but we worship Joseph Smith too.
Yeah. So I don't know. And plus, since there's a lot of religious undertones to this book, it drives the character even more, right? So now, you know, we've got the native guy. He's also a Christian. He's also a Jesuit convert, so he's Catholic. He's in a Catholic town that's got evil stuff going on. There's a Protestant preacher, so there's a lot of religious stuff happening, which I think is going to be kind of fun to explore.
Yeah. This is our kind of. I think this is how we both took Write What You Know.
Yeah,
we're taking little nuggets of real life and just doing something interesting with them. Yeah, more interesting than your IFC movie.
Yeah. So that's Cardinal Point. It's out on Vella. New chapters every week, so everybody go check it out. Tell us what you think. If you listen to the previous chapters on here, and you don't want to check it out on Kindle Vella, let us know what you thought about what we said here. We'll probably do some more readings every once in a while of Cardinal Point.
But we will have to skip, so you'll get nowhere near the full story. Just because that's Kindle Vella's rules.
Yeah, legally we can't release the whole thing for free on here, so we'll skip around a little bit, but hopefully it'll be able to give you the stuff that you want to hear, and it'll be enough to get you interested in checking out the book on Kindle Vella. But we're planning on doing a short one today, so we're gonna start wrapping it up here. But I think so far we've had a pretty awesome Halloween weekend. I think Halloween looks like it's going to be fun. They were asking about your costume, and I mentioned that you had said that you were homeless. I think was your costume. Well, but you have a real one, right?
I hopefully will have a real one. I had quite a hiccup this morning. My car didn't start, and that car is kind of how I make my whole livelihood. So the whole day was. You're lucky to get this now because my whole day was.
We literally ran in the office and turned the cameras on and started talking. So so we made it. Halloween show. This will be the first one. I think we're pretty excited about doing this again next year. So we'll try and plan it out a little bit more.
We've already made like a plan for it, and I'm like, this is a good tradition to have.
Yeah. So year one tradition down. We'll and then we're going to do a little bit of a review of how Halloween weekend went. Talk a little bit more about Cardinal Point tomorrow, but then we'll have a different reading. Is that right? Switch over to Control Point. Control Point. That shout out to the Control Point listeners. Cardinal Point. No, we're not going to do Cardinal Point. We're going to do error correction tomorrow.
Or Jaeger?
Yeah, we could do Sam Yeager if you want to do introduce Sam Yeager.
They're both kind of at the same point of completion, so we can do either one.
Yeah, I'm good with either. It'll be a surprise. But yeah, so anyway, I hope everybody has a happy Halloween, and looking forward to talking to you again tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, just tell us in the chats if you'd want something new, Sam Yeager, or if you want more error correction. That's how we'll do that.
Oh, wait. Sorry, we do have a couple of questions, though. Is Chay a stoner?
Chay, yes, of course he is. Like what? Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, and then somebody heard me mention Control Point. But yeah, and you know what? I need to probably talk to Brent and Eric. And was Wes on Control Point? I don't remember. Maybe we could get them to come in and read something. I don't even know if I don't know what their project. I know Eric's got something that he's doing that's pretty big. I think Brent is just doing the engineering game, but yeah, maybe we can get him on for like a guest show or do a special show or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so thanks for coming out on Halloween, and everybody be safe tonight, and we will see you next week.
See you next week.